Today we have a quick presentation just to show you a little bit about what our university has to offer. I'll give you a couple of quick tips and tricks about how to apply, things like the costs, accommodation, and other things like that. I don't think there'll be any time for questions, but there's maybe there will be at the end, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so as you probably have already seen in perhaps in previous presentations, you've probably seen the map already, but yeah, Amsterdam is about a 13-14 hour flight from Taiwan. Most students arriving to come and study with us would arrive in Amsterdam airport, and then pretty much the whole country is really easy to reach on public transport. Our city is 2 hours north by train. So yeah, and then pretty much that's as far away as from Amsterdam as you can get, and still being within the Netherlands. Another thing you'll see from the map there is that the Netherlands is a relatively small country, and it's kind of at a crossroads in Europe. So if you go from our city, for example, if you drive more than about 20 or 30 minutes to the east, you'll already be in Germany. To the south, you have Belgium and France and Luxembourg and so on. You can also now go by train from Amsterdam to London. And of course, you have the UK and Ireland to the west. And then to the north, you have Northern Europe, so the Scandinavian countries. So students who come to study in the Netherlands have a really good opportunity to explore the rest of Europe pretty easily. But there's lots of other reasons why people come to study in the Netherlands. So firstly, not many people know, but we do have a really high quality, world-class education system. We have a lot of universities in the Netherlands who teach a lot in English. But not only that, when you come to a Dutch university, there's a really unique environment. It's a multilingual environment. So it's a bit different from studying in the UK or the USA, where everything is in English. At Dutch universities, you hear English, you also hear Dutch, of course, but also lots of other languages as well. Another thing about Dutch education is that it's relatively intensive. So you get a lot for your money, I think. You're really, you get a lot squeezed into the study time. Lots of support as well comes with that, though. So we have attentive, approachable professors. So they're not just there to give lectures, but they're there also to be invested in your progress as well. So quickly about our university, well, we were founded in 1614 as a research university, so that makes us the second oldest university in the Netherlands. And we now have over 36,000 students, so we're a relatively large university, but also a pretty international university. So around a quarter of our students come from all manner of different countries, more than 120 different countries. Including some Taiwanese students as well, of course. And a part of the reason for why we have so many international students is because we have such a broad range of options for people to study in English. So we have more than 150 courses which are taught in English, and that's including around 35 of them are bachelor programs. So around 35, something like that, bachelor programs taught in English, and then more than 100 different programs at master level taught in English. So that's actually the widest range of options of any Dutch university. And they're spread right across the whole range of academia. So 11 different faculties. That's right from the pure sciences and medicine, right through to the social sciences, through to the humanities like the arts, and theology and philosophy and that kind of thing. In terms of the rankings, well, in 2 of the 3 main world ranking systems, we are in the top 100. So that's pretty good. But as I said earlier, we have in the Netherlands a good education system. So pretty much all universities are of good quality. 10 of our bachelor programs are considered top-rated programs, and we also have the top-rated bachelor program in the Netherlands, which is a different price tag. So it's important to take a look on the website at what you're specifically interested in. But it ranges from around 10,000 euros per year for the more humanities focused subjects, up to about 18,000 euros or so for the more science kinds of subjects. The big exception for that is medicine. Medicine is 32,000 euros per year, and that's the kind of the most expensive program that we have. But on top of the tuition fees, you also need to think about the living costs. So we estimate around 11,000 euros per year as a good average budget for the cost of your rent and all of the other things that go alongside your life in the Netherlands. You can spend much less than that, but it's sensible to budget around 11,000 euros for the year. We do have some scholarships, but realistically, we don't really have any significant scholarships. So even if you get a scholarship, it's likely that you'll still need to fund at least 90% or so of the whole costs of your studies. So it's important to be aware of that. And yeah, then it can help with your budgeting. But of course, if you want to take a look at the different available scholarships, then you can do that on our website if you go to the grant finder. Just as a couple of tips, the rent is by far the biggest part of your living cost expenses. So starting your search for housing early is a really important way of making sure that you are lowering your expenses. And then another thing is that eating out in restaurants and cafes for lunch is relatively expensive. So what many students do is they save money by cooking for themselves for lunch and dinner and eating out on the rare occasion. So I heard Annika explaining briefly about how the application works. It's fairly similar for us. So you go through the StudyLink portal, which is the national portal for applying to Dutch universities. And then part 2 of the process is applying through our own university portal. And it's really important to know the differences between selective and non-selective programs. So most of our programs are non-selective, and I think most programs at many Dutch universities are not selective. And what that means is that you're admitted based on your academic background, so based on the subjects that you've done either in your high school or at your in your previous university study. And it's, although you do still need to go through the application process, the admission is almost automatic. So if you're eligible, then you will get a place. And if you're not eligible, then it's very difficult to prove that you can become eligible before the start of the course. So all of these programs have a deadline of the 1st of May. And then on the other side, you have the selective programs. So this takes up about 20% of the programs at our university. And this is a bit more of a traditional way of looking at how to apply to universities. So this is where, as an applicant, you're competing with the other applicants who are applying for the same program, and you're admitted based normally on merit. So if you have a good application, you're more likely to get a place. If another student is better than you, then they're more likely to get the place. So this is, these programs are, we look more closely at your grades, at things like your personal statement, and there's often an assessment as well that you actually have to do. So a kind of an online entrance test that helps us to figure out which students are the best students for the program. The way to recognize the selective courses is that they have an earlier deadline of the 15th of January. So you need to have your application in by that time, and then usually in February or so, they will send out information about how the selection procedure works. That's a really important difference, I think, is in recognizing whether you're applying for a selective or a non-selective program. Okay, now I have just an overview of the different programs that we have on offer. So I've actually only listed the bachelor's programs because there's 35 of those, and I think it gives a pretty good representation of the broad range of things on offer. If I couldn't list all of the master's programs because there's just too many of them, but you can see, I think, based on the bachelor programs, what kind of masters we also have. So all of these bachelor programs lead on to at least one, but often, 1 to 5 or 5 to 10 different master's options. So you can see there the Faculty of Arts, firstly. So you have a broad range of different humanities and arts subjects, languages and that kind of thing, media studies. You can see there that the International Relations and International Organization bachelor program, I've put there the number of places. That's because that's a selective program. So wherever I've listed the number of places, it's selective. If it doesn't have a number next to it, then it's a non-selective program. Then you have the psychology program with 600 places. And then in the Faculty of Economics and Business, we have 3 main programs. One of them, the International Business program, is selective with 550 places. Then we have the Science and Engineering faculty with a broad range of different options. So mostly in kind of the more pure sciences, things like mathematics, physics, chemistry, and that kind of thing, but also some engineering subjects. The selective programs here are the Artificial Intelligence program, which is a quite varied mix of all different kinds of sciences, including some linguistics, for example. So that's quite an interesting program. Then you have biology with 250 places, biomedical engineering, computing science. They're the main selective programs in this faculty. And then finally, a whole range of smaller faculties. So you have, for example, the Faculty of Law with the main international law program, medicine. Most of our medicine course is taught in Dutch, but there are 100 English taught places for the first half. If you want to study medicine at a Dutch university, though, you do eventually need to learn Dutch. With us, you need to learn Dutch before the second half of the medical program in order to be able to start practicing in Dutch hospitals. And then you can see a range of smaller programs, like, for example, philosophy, theology, some spatial sciences, which is not astronomy, it's more focused on geography and that kind of thing. And then our 2 university colleges. The Global Responsibility and Leadership program, I think I mentioned it earlier, it was just awarded the best bachelor program in the Netherlands, so we're very proud of that. Okay, so in terms of the entry requirements, I think this will be fairly similar to other research universities. So if you're looking to do a bachelor, normally we would accept any international school qualifications such as International Baccalaureate, British A-levels, or American APs. With any of these, you would need to have a often relevant subject. So, for example, if you want to study chemistry, then you need to have chemistry in your high school, but also usually mathematics as well. With master programs, it's a bit more vague. It's difficult for us to be specific, but basically, in many cases, you need to have a closely related bachelor degree to the masters that you want to do. It's a little bit more difficult to change academic field in the Netherlands, but it is possible, specifically with and that can be done through any of the kind of standardized tests that you probably already know about, IELTS and TOEFL and that kind of thing. If you are looking to do a PhD, then you need a master's degree from a recognized university. It's a little bit more difficult with PhD because you're not applying to a course. You kind of have to devise a research project in partnership with one of our professors. So this is a little bit more difficult. So yeah. I just have a couple of tips now. I know we have limited time, so I don't want to spend too long on this. But I already mentioned the difference between selective and non-selective courses. If you're applying for a non-selective course, questions like what kind of soft skills do I need? How do I write a really good personal statement? How do I make sure that I'm chosen instead of other students? If you're applying to a non-selective program, these kinds of questions are not really relevant because you're not competing with other applicants and you don't need to prove yourself above any of those. You just need to meet the academic requirements for the program that you're applying for. So bear that one in mind. Another thing is that the longer application period with a deadline of the 1st of May is a little bit deceptive. So it looks like you have loads of time, but actually the whole process of application takes quite a long time, and applying, I would say, before the end of January is a really good idea. Many times it's not because students didn't get a place on the course, but it's actually because they were too late with their application. That's often what means that they can't actually join the course that they want to. So I'd really recommend applying early. Another thing, another benefit to applying early is that you will also be able to apply for your housing early. And that's really, really important, especially in our city. Every year we have a really big issue with many students finding it almost impossible to find housing. So it's absolutely vitally important that if you are very serious about coming, especially to Groningen, that you apply early for your admission and then move on after that to looking for housing as early as possible so that you are avoiding potentially finding it difficult to find housing. I also wanted to ask or answer the question that I often get, which is what's different about studying in Groningen or in the Netherlands compared to studying, if you're looking at studying in other countries. The first thing I think that many of our international students would say is that it's intense, more intense actually than what they might have been prepared for. For example, failing classes is relatively normal even for very good students. So that's something to bear in mind. That's just the normal way that the Dutch education system works. If you're on a bachelor course, then you need to pass 3/4 of your first year credits. A passing grade is 55%, so you need to get 55% in 3/4 of your classes in the first year. Another thing is that there's more regular assessments. So in other universities, you might have an exam period in January and another one at the end of the year, or maybe just one time at the end of the year. Whereas in Dutch universities, there's 4. So that's in around the beginning of November, again in January, again in April, and then again in June. So there's quite regular assessment throughout the year. But coming with that, you do have the people in the faculty, so the professors, teachers, lecturers who are teaching you are actually invested in your success. They're not just making it difficult for you and then leaving you on your own. They actually will make sure that you're able to keep up with the classes and that you can keep up with everything. Things like extra classes, study skills help is all available if you are struggling with any particular aspect. Another thing is that there's a lot of emphasis on class participation. So teaching is very interactive. There's often discussions are kind of encouraged between the teachers and students. So you can't just sit at the back of the class and listen, you have to actually participate. That's another big difference, I think. And of course, as if I could forget, another big difference about studying in the Netherlands is living in the Netherlands. Life in the Netherlands is very unique, I think, and certainly a big aspect for anybody who studies here is their life in the Netherlands. yeah, I think I mentioned before, I just want to make sure that I underline it very particularly. Accommodation is a really big issue. We had a big issue this year with lots of students not finding housing. And it's really important, therefore, that you start your housing search as early as possible. I know I don't have loads of time left, so I'm gonna just whiz through the next few slides. I think I've got through the most important bits. Here you can see a map of the city. I'd also encourage you, if you're interested in studying in Groningen, that you take a look at how things are. It's a very small city, so you can see at the bottom of the screen there is the city center with various different faculties based there. And then at the top of the screen, you can see the Zernike campus. This is our more modern campus with economics and business and science and engineering and spatial science faculties. And this is also partly where the Hansa University is based. That's on the edge of the city center, but it might look, if that were a map of Taipei, that's going to take a very long time to get between the two locations. But actually, it's only a 10 or 15-minute cycle ride or a 10-minute bus ride. So yeah, it's very easy to get around. And yeah, students live all over the city. We also have a campus in Leeuwarden, which is a city about 35 minutes away by train. And yeah, this is where the Global Responsibility and Leadership Master's Bachelor is, for example. That's a bit of a smaller city, but the campus is relatively close to the train station. If you want to take a look at the housing options, then you can do that on the website, but I think I'll skip that for now. There's lots of opportunity over the coming months for you to look at that in a bit more detail. And yeah, if there's a different housing situation in Leeuwarden. And I think I'm going to skip just to this slide, just to let you know that there's lots of events happening online over the coming weeks and months for you to get to know the university. Later in the month, this month, we have a master week, which is a whole week of showcasing our different master's programs. Some of that will be on site, but there is a lot of options to do it online. So you can meet us online as well. And there's also a bachelor's open week, which we're planning in the new year. So yeah, we hope you can join one of those to learn more about specifically what you want to study. But of course, over the coming months, we're doing lots of other online events, webinars, web classes, and that kind of thing as well. So I'd encourage you to take a look on our website and see what the different options are for getting to know us a bit better. And then finally, of course, connect with us and stay in touch with us. Take a look on our Instagram. I think that's a great way of getting a visual impression of the university. Also our YouTube, there's lots of videos on there introducing you to the city and so on. But yeah, also you can email us, you can WhatsApp us, and then of course you have the Holland Education Association in Taiwan. They'll also be very helpful helping you to apply to a Dutch university. I hope I haven't overrun. Thank you very much for listening.